Great. All right. So this is our hiring webinar for current students and recent grads. We're so glad you're here. All right. So our agenda for today is we're going to quickly go over an overview of EPA, who we are, what our mission is, what we're like. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to actually navigate the federal hiring process. And then we'll answer your questions at the end. Before we get into that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Paul, who's going to deliver the welcoming remarks.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. Good morning or afternoon, depending where you are. My name is Paul Leonard. I'm the director, as you can see on the screen, of the Superfund and Emergency Management Division in EPA Region 3 in Philadelphia. I've been with EPA starting as an intern back in 1985, so you can do the math. It's a very long time. It's been a wonderful ride at EPA. Our mission is huge, and it hasn't wavered since I started here, which is one of the reasons I stay here. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Philadelphia. I was born, raised, and schooled here. I went to Temple University and the civil engineering program there. I'm a very strong Philadelphia sports fan. So just so everybody knows, my middle initial is H. So my initials are PHL, which happen to be the same initials as the Philadelphia airport. So I'm a strong Philadelphian. One of the things that drew me to EPA while I was in college in the civil engineering program, back then, the environment was kind of a newly developing arena. A lot of the civil engineering was about structures, and we had some little bits of pieces about environment, like wastewater treatment, things of that nature, which was very intriguing to me. So you can see from the picture, I love the ocean, which is, this was from last summer. It was when Ernesto was kicking up the waves. It was very fun. But one of the things that kind of drew me to EPA was the mission, right? So protect human health and the environment is a very strong message that if everybody here feels that. So the culture here is very strong when it comes to that type of a desire to be here. So while I was a sophomore in college, I went to our co-op office. They were offering internships. I interviewed with a number of people, FEMA, EPA, some private entities as well, and I was offered several positions, but EPA really appealed to me, so I accepted that position. I came to work here in the hazardous waste program and learned a tremendous amount about what EPA does and how it supports people and the environment. So it was very attractive. I went back to school and did another internship the following year with EPA, and because I liked it so much. So it's been a very rewarding career. I've had multiple positions at EPA. There's a lot of diversity here when it comes to opportunities. There's water, air, land, lab, all those types of things that all those areas of adventure that EPA presents. It's been a very interesting ride. We just had a presidential transition, which was my 10th presidential transition, because even when the party stays the same, there still is a transition period between after the election. So it's been interesting to see from a political angle how strong EPA presents itself and how strong it can stay in the public's mind and move forward. So I did, and one of the things I would express to you as you're considering your careers as you move forward is that several times I kind of investigated the government salaries to begin pay may appear a little bit low. There are structures, there's career ladders that take you to a different place fairly quickly if you perform well. And I always would investigate kind of the private industry portions of that. And what I found was that at EPA, the mission is very strong. It's not a for-profit, it's for better. And it was actually very competitive over the years when it came to that. I've had several of my counterparts who worked here with me who have actually moved on to private industry. And I can say a large number of them who did that have always wanted to come back or have come back to EPA because of its mission and because it was not quite as green on the other side for the profit organizations that they were working for. So I would encourage you to consider EPA strongly for your careers. Again, like I said, how can you argue with a mission that says protects human health and the environment? How can you, not appreciate the things that we have around us, like the ocean, like the lands, like the mountains, like the air? And so it's a very strong organization. The culture here is very strong as far as a community. There's a very strong commitment to the environment that keeps us all kind of tied together. And so we're all very working together to move things forward. So with that, I'm going to kick it back. I appreciate all of you for participating today. And again, I hope you all consider, EPA as a potential future career. So thank you.
So my name is Ashley. I am a program analyst at the EPA. I am a white woman with blonde hair and I'm wearing a black sweater. So what we're going to talk about is a little bit about who we are at the EPA. So Lily, if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. So at the EPA, our mission first and foremost is to protect human health and the environment. And I think something that's really important that a lot of people don't know about the EPA is that they assume that to work here, you have to have like a biology degree or a chemistry degree or environmental science degree. And while we do love having people with those backgrounds, we take people from all different types of majors, all different types of degree. I always like to highlight myself, I have an English degree and I work at the EPA. So we have a lot of diverse opportunities across the agency for everyone to participate in. Okay, so a little bit about where we work. So at the EPA, we are a very large agency. Over half of our employees are engineers, scientists, and environmental protection specialists. But like I was saying before, we have people from a variety of different backgrounds. So, we hire people in legal, we hire people in public affairs, we hire people in human resources, computer specialists, financial divisions. So you really can find your own place at the EPA. You don't have to be a scientist. And I think something else that a lot of people often assume is that if you want to work for the EPA or the federal government, you have to live in Washington, D.C. And while, Washington, D.C. is our biggest office, you most certainly do not have to live in D.C. to work for the EPA. We are a nationwide agency, and as you can see on the map, we have offices located in most states in America. And for me personally, I work in North Carolina. So you definitely do not have to relocate to DC to work for us. We serve the American public nationwide, and as such, we have offices located nationwide as well. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked a little bit about who we are and kind of what we do, you might be asking yourself, okay, that sounds great, but why should I work at the EPA? And one of the big things that we are really, we are very excited about for working with the EPA is the purpose and the impact that we have. So at the EPA, we are very mission driven. Like I said, our mission is to protect human health and the environment. And so it's really special for me and a lot of EPA employees to know that every day we're going to work, we're really making a difference in the world. And that's something that, you might not get at other employers and other agencies. We also have a really strong standpoint on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So we have a saying at the EPA that we want our offices, we want our employees to really mirror the American public, because that is who we serve. So, we accept people from a wide array of backgrounds, and we're always happy for them to join our team. this is one of my favorites, and this is the unparalleled work-life balance. So at the EPA, we say, whenever you're at work, we want you to work. But whenever you log off, we want you to log off. We don't want you to be thinking about work. So we have a variety of flexible work schedules, and we want you to enjoy your free time. And that's something that you often don't get in private industry. I worked in private industry before. My work-life balance was not the same and not as good as it is at the EPA. So that's another factor that we have, as well as the growth and opportunity. So this was something that was mentioned before, but at the EPA, you really have the ability to grow within your role fairly quickly. And the nice thing about that is, you might start as an entry-level employee, but as long as you're meeting your standards, you can very quickly, go up the career ladder, which is something that can be hard to do in other industries. And then lastly, the salaries and the benefits. So at the EPA, we have competitive salaries. This kind of ties into the growth and opportunity. If you're meeting your goals, then you're going to get salary raises, which is awesome. And then we also have, in my opinion, unparalleled benefits. The government is always known for having really good health benefits, and the EPA is similar. We have really great health benefits, retirement benefits, things like that. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to Brittany, who is one of our current interns, to talk about her time at the EPA.
All right, well, hi everyone. My name is Brittany and my pronouns are she, her, and I am a white woman with brown hair and wearing a black t-shirt today. So I was born and raised in the Dallas, Texas area, but right now I currently live in Denver and I'm attending the University of Colorado, our Denver campus, and I'm expected to graduate in December. I am currently getting my Bachelor of Science in Biology with a minor in environmental science. And I discovered this EPA student internship via our hiring website within my university, which is Handshake. And I applied because I was looking for something part-time that would really accommodate my school schedule and also kind of get me some exposure to the field that I was looking to work in long-term. An important note, I do want to say that prior to applying for this internship, I had no government experience at all. I didn't even have environmental experience. So before I decided to return to school full time, I was working in retail management. And so I just don't want you guys to feel discouraged if you might not have experience. Ultimately, the agency is looking just for hardworking individuals that are looking to learn. So once I applied, they reached out to me and we scheduled an interview, and I was brought in pretty quickly within a few months. So I am currently a student intern within Region 8, and that is going to be over 6 states. We have Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And I specifically work in also Superfund and Emergency Management Division, specifically our Emergency Management Branch. And this division sits within the Office of Land and Emergency Management. So things that require emergency management activities, all things kind of like that. So I've had the pleasure of working with pretty much all of our sections within our branch. So we have our preparedness section, which does all types of contingency planning efforts, our site assessment section, which looks at contaminated sites and determining what the next course is for those. We have our oil section, which oversees our oil facilities and compliance efforts. And then we've got our response section, which handles emergency responses and as well as non-emergencies. So I've had the opportunity to conduct a range of tasks, actually. Some of the more operational tasks have been some data analysis, some GIS exposure, and development with some maps as well, and then just development of some other tools and resources that the team has used. So my favorite thing that I've gotten to do is get some field experience. So this has entailed going specifically in Colorado, but visiting some sites, specifically abandoned mine sites. And I've gotten to help with taking water samples and soil samples. So that's been my favorite thing so far. I've also had the opportunity to travel, which has been great. I've gotten to travel for in-person trainings and meetings. This past summer, I was actually able to travel to Montana twice with our preparedness team and help facilitate some presentations around tabletop exercises with the local governments and communities there, where we pretty much practice, if an emergency were to happen, what do we do? How are we going to make sure the public is protected? So a little bit about my journey to EPA. I started in January of 2023, and I was interested because I really just held a passion for the environment, and had always heard about the agency and was just kind of curious about what the agency did. So I was looking forward to finding that out. I had also heard from a family member that works in a different federal agency that federal government can really offer a good work-life balance, as was said earlier. So that for me, long-term is very important. And then, hey, this was a paid internship. The fact that I could be paid while I was gaining some experience in the area that I was interested in working in, was really cool to me. So a little bit about my time at EPA. Like I said, I started in January 2023, so coming up on almost 2 years now. And I've had a lot of great opportunities throughout my internship. My supervisors have been super supportive of my wishes. Like I said, they've let me participate in trainings and meetings. I've had the opportunity to travel. And also when I need time off, they've granted it to me, as long as I give that notice. They're very respectful. If I've had a family thing come up, or, hey, I just need some time to focus more on school this week, they've been super supportive. So overall, the team members that I've worked with, they've really welcomed me with open arms. I've had the opportunity to really assist and take on numerous tasks to help challenge me and really just grow my knowledge of what the EPA does. So everyone has been very open to me helping with things. And most importantly, my supervisors, they're supportive of me coming on full-time when I graduate here. We've had those conversations pretty much since the start of my internship. What is it going to take for me to, get converted to a permanent employee, long-term, what needs to get done. So, and overall, I've really experienced a lot of hardworking individuals here. I can tell they really care about their job and the agency's mission of protecting people and the environment. A lot of these people have 20, 30 plus years experience. So it's really great to see that these people are dedicated and, really love what they do. So yeah, overall, if you guys have a passion for the environment, I would encourage you to look into an internship with us. As was mentioned earlier, EPA is a big agency and there's lots of divisions and branches throughout the country. So there's lots of opportunities. Just because you don't have a science background doesn't mean you can't come on board. You could join our HR team, or maybe you care about community involvement or environmental justice. There are some more non-science type fields as well. So thank you guys for listening to me today. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Evelyn, who is another intern with us, specifically an engineering student intern. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Evelyn Hoffman. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. I'm a white trans feminine person with brown hair and blonde highlights, and I'm wearing a light blue shirt today. I'm currently a second-year intern also in the Denver Region 8 office, where I work with the Safe Drinking Water branch, which is within the Water Division. I spent the first 18 years of my life in the Denver suburbs, where I was fortunate enough to get a job at our local library. And that was my first introduction to working in the public sector, which I absolutely loved. I loved feeling like the everyday work I did was wholly centered on providing a free and public resource and a space for the people in my community. And I think continuing to search for that feeling is a large part of why I ended up at EPA. And then after high school, I went into an environmental engineering degree at the University of Colorado in Boulder. About this time of year in my sophomore year, which was 2 years ago now, I ran across postings for this student internship position, and I kind of decided to apply to them on a whim. So I was pretty surprised when I got a call back in December asking me for an interview. The hiring process was pretty long, and the background check process was pretty difficult for me to navigate because I was actively working on changing my name and that sort of thing. But I did manage to start on time, May 2023. And my supervisors were super wonderful. They were really flexible with letting me decide what I wanted the rest of my internship to look like for me. So that first summer, they really encouraged me to get involved in a bunch of different little projects. So I got to do some work with harmful algal blooms and cyanotoxins, some work on a lead service line replacement form, and then some work reviewing consumer confidence reports. And I really got to see the breadth of work that the drinking water branch does. Still, the first summer was a lot of getting settled, a lot of getting my new hire paperwork out of the way. I tried for a long time to get my preferred name change documents done, but it all worked out pretty smoothly. I do recommend sticking around for more than just a single summer, because that first summer is kind of settling in and getting to know a lot of people. So definitely consider sticking around for as long as you can, because the longer you're there, the more cool stuff you get to do and the less bureaucracy. But that first summer was also a lot of fun because I got to make pretty good friends with a handful of the other Region 8 interns. A lot of them had never been to Colorado before, so we got to go on a bunch of weekend trips and stuff. Again, with that work-life balance, it was also a really easy place to make friends with the other interns. So I got to have a really fun summer despite working full-time, which was something I had not done before. This past year, I really got to be able to deep dive into the sanitary survey process and do a full-fledged project. So sanitary surveys are when EPA or our contractors or state agencies go out to drinking water systems and inspect that system on site to ensure it's engineered in a way that's adequately protecting drinking water. And so I would say the vast majority of my work for the last year and a half has been on these sanitary surveys. So in that, I've gotten to travel up to Wyoming with a small team to do these on-site inspections. And so I've done that probably 5 or so times and seen over 25 systems. It's been a lot of fun. I've got to spend a whole week in Grand Teton National Park. So that travel was super fulfilling. When I heard that my mentor, Lucian, shout out to them for just being awesome, they were working on modernizing our sanitary survey process from a Microsoft Word document to a more streamlined Esri Survey 123 process. And since I've gotten to work with Esri tools in my university classes, I pestered to help them develop the Survey 123 tool. So alongside Lucian, I really got to be one of the main architects of this new process, which allowed for a lot of automation and cut our review and response time for surveys down from like 3 years to days. So I've gotten to see the impact that this work has done at the agency and in protecting human health. And it's been honestly incredibly fulfilling. I also wanted to touch a little bit on the logistics of my internship. My supervisors and HR have been super great at working with my school schedule. So I get to work fully remote with a flexible schedule throughout the school year. And then during my breaks, I come back as full-time hybrid. And so I've gotten to really figure out what I want out of the internship and what I can give to EPA and what I need to focus on for school and other responsibilities. And my supervisors have been super duper respectful and great about helping me manage that balance. I also want to give a small moment expressing how wonderful I found it working in the Denver office as a trans person. The agency has a little ways to go in streamlining some of the processes and getting access to gender neutral bathrooms, but I've been able to find a lot of community. We have special emphasis programs called ERGs, kind of like ERGs, that are for a variety of identities across all of our regions, as well as national non-labor employee groups, which are just chock full of amazing people. So it's been an incredible experience getting to know all of the people at EPA and getting to work here. So I highly recommend applying. You never know what can happen. Thank you all.
I will very quickly just recap the student pathways section. So like I said, that's going to be if you are enrolled at least half-time at a participating institution. We pay our interns at EPA. We have a variety of internships, so spring, summer, fall, as well as multi-year internships. And as an intern at EPA, you can be converted into a full-time employee. Okay, so to talk about the recent graduate section, so the parameters for that are going to be students or alumni who have graduated within 2 years of the closing date of the announcement. The cool thing about this pathway is that it also has a stipulation where you can still be a current student and apply. So Courtney, and a little bit my colleague, she's going to show you a USA Jobs demo. But on USA Jobs, there's going to be a section on the vacancy announcement that sometimes will say under the recent grad pathway that some positions will allow students to apply within 9 months of graduating. So if you are 9 months out from graduating of the closing date of the vacancy announcement, then you can still apply. So that's really awesome. If you're about to graduate, you can use both the recent grad pathway as well as a current student pathway. And who knows, maybe you might end up with an internship before you graduate. And just like with the student pathway, you can convert that internship into a full-time job. So we have sometimes had interns who have a full-time job set up before they graduate, which is awesome and is always the goal, right? And then very briefly, I wanted to mention some of our special hiring authorities that might apply to you all. So that's going to be things like the Veterans Hiring Authority. So if you're a veteran, Schedule A appointments with Schedule A disabilities, as well as Peace Corps and AmeriCorps Vista. I know, like I was a Fulbright, they have non-compete eligibility. So if any of those things apply to you, definitely look out for those hiring paths on USA Jobs as well. Okay, so now, hopefully, without any more interruptions, I am going to hand it over to my colleague, Courtney, and she is going to show you a USA Jobs demo and kind of show you exactly what to look for and how to apply for one of these internships.
Thank you, Ashley. Hopefully you all can hear me. I'll keep an eye on the chat just to make sure, but I'm just going to dive right in. So as you guys, first of all, my name's Courtney. My pronouns are she and her, and I am a white woman with dark hair, and I'm wearing a tan jacket. Okay, so you guys should be seeing the USA Jobs homepage. If you go to usa.job, usajobs.gov, this is what will pop up. And then you can just click this search button without typing anything in, and then you'll get to this page. Right here, there's this little box that gives different search features. We're actually going to go over a lot of these, so I would encourage you to read this on your own time as well. So to start off, one thing that I talk to people about when I'm talking to prospective applicants and students is a lot of people mention just how overwhelming USA Jobs can be, or how they don't really know how to navigate it. And so we just want to take some time to show you all. And the first thing that I always ask people is if they have a profile and if they have explored USA Jobs before. So the first thing that I would encourage you all to do is to set up a profile. And with doing this, you can set your preferences. You can also upload all of your relevant application documents so that anytime a job pops up, you can just drop those documents into the application and apply. One of the main reasons that we encourage this is that jobs are often open for a short period of time. At the EPA, our standard open period is from like 5 to 10 days. So if you go on a quick little vacation for 5 days, you might miss the job. So this will kind of allow you to stay on top of all of that. So now we're going to look at the filters over here. There are lots of filters, as you can see. I would encourage in the beginning to start small, not filter too much, just so you can kind of see what's out there. And then you can always narrow that more and more as you kind of have a better sense of what's available and what you would be able to apply to. So we're actually going to start by filtering by agency. You can see it's department and agency. Since we're at the EPA, I want to focus on showing you guys what we have to offer you. But you can explore lots of different agencies on here as well. And then Ashley did a really good job of breaking down the hiring paths. So I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm just going to select open to the public, which would apply to everybody, and then students and recent grads. I think Ashley mentioned this as well, but you may be eligible for just one of these, but you also potentially could be eligible for both. And I'm just going to keep it at that to start. And then something that you can also do when you have a profile is once you get all these filters the way you want, and you can just easily get rid of them too if you want to, you can click Save This Search, and then it will give you the option to get notifications. So anytime a new recent graduate position pops up or a new student position, you will be made aware. So that's also a really, really great tool. Okay, now we're going to hop into one of the announcements that's live right now. This is an EPA student trainee position in Region 8, so in Denver, Colorado. And as you can see, this has a bit of a longer open period, but there's this little notice right underneath it that says that it will close once 100 applications have been received. So this one has an application limit. Anytime you see that, I would just say apply as soon as possible. I would actually encourage you to try to apply on the first day if you can. But I'm just going to point out some sections that I want you to make sure to look at when you're looking at an announcement. Please read all of it, but these are the sections that are really important. And we're kind of going to talk about a couple of things. So one, you want to ask yourself, am I eligible? And then two, am I qualified? And when we say that, what we mean when we say, am I eligible? It's, can I even be considered for this position? And then when we ask, am I qualified? That is, could I be selected? Do I have the relevant education and experience to fill this position? So for eligibility, we're going to look at this clarification from the agency section. So this is going to kind of define how you can be eligible. So for this position, you need to be an enrolled student seeking a degree. And then we're going to scroll down to the qualification section. So something I like to point out with this that is a little unique from maybe what you're used to with applying to other jobs or seeing other job postings is the qualifications requirement is a minimum qualifications requirement. It's not a suggestion or qualifications for the ideal candidate. It's really, you have to meet this in order to be considered, in order to be qualified for the position. So this tells you right here that you need to have 2 years of post-high school study. So it's pretty vague. You can apply with a lot of different experience. And if you meet that, then the eligibility and the qualifications, then you could be referred to the hiring manager. Oftentimes there's an education section right here, but there's not one on this announcement. So I have another one up as well so we can kind of compare. So this is a recent graduate position for an industrial hygienist. If you don't know what something is, that probably means it has an education requirement. So we're going to scroll down right past the qualification section, and you can see this is pretty robust to the education, and this will define what you need, and it says exactly what degree and what coursework is needed for this position. Okay, just a couple more things I want to point out. If you keep going, you will see a required document section. This outlines all the documents that you need and what is needed in each of those documents. And then the last thing I want to show you on here is there is an agency contact. So a lot of times people think, you know, with the agency contact that it's just going to go to a robot or a general mailbox and nobody's really going to answer those. But the agency contact is always going to be a real HR specialist. It's the person that helped to post and create this announcement, so they know all about the announcement. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to them and they will respond. What I will say too is that if you're having difficulties applying or you have questions about something within the announcement, it's important to reach out to them while the announcement is open so you can make adjustments to your application if needed. And I think that's all I have for now. Feel free to put questions in the chat and we will address those at the end.
All right, thank you, Courtney, for doing that demo for us. I know that one of the biggest questions that we get from people is, how do I work USA jobs? So thank you so much for that demo and for showing us how to kind of look at the vacancy announcement and to see what is important. All right, Lily, if you will go to the next slide when you can. Okay. So I very quickly wanted to go a little bit over how to build a federal resume. So something that people usually do not know or are not aware of is that a federal resume is actually different than, say, a private sector resume. I know whenever I was applying for my government job, I did not realize they were two different things, but they are. So I'm going to give you some tips about how to build that federal resume. So in general, a federal resume is usually going to be slightly longer than a private sector resume. It's okay if your resume is multiple pages. We like to say, try to keep it not longer than 5, but it is completely okay if your resume and all your experience doesn't fit on one page. I know when I was in college, I was always told it has to be on one page. It doesn't have to be. That's completely fine, as long as it is less than 5. The other thing that I want to highlight is that it is actually recommended to have multiple resumes. So as Courtney was talking about in the USA Jobs demo, for the qualifications section and the duty section about what you're actually going to be doing in that job, you want your resume to reflect that you have experience for that position. That way, when the staffing specialists are looking at your resume, they can very clearly see, okay, this person has this, a year of experience doing this, which qualifies them for that job. So I highly recommend having multiple resumes that match the position that you are applying for. Something else that is a little bit different than a private sector resume is that we want you to put those dates and the hours that you worked. And what we mean by that is, we want you to put the month and the year, as well as, did you work 40 hours a week? Did you work 20 hours a week in this position? And the reason why we ask for that is for that qualification section. So if a job says, you need to have worked 40 hours a week doing a job for a year, if you don't have the months as well as the year and then the hours that you have worked on your resume, a staffing specialist cannot qualify you for that position. So that's really important. You also want to make sure that you have facts and figures. So definitely quantifying what you did in that position, as well as any education and relevant trainings that you have attended, any awards and accolades. And then also, a lot of times people ask us, should I put volunteer experience on there? If it is relevant to the position, you most certainly can put volunteer experience on your resume, and that can actually qualify you for a position. So even if, you might be thinking to yourself, I'm in college, I haven't worked a full-time job. We understand that, but if you have done full, kind of a year-long volunteer experience, and that relates to the job, that can qualify you for that internship. Definitely, as with any resume, have someone look it over before you submit it. And then just some tips in the interview, be ready to respond to any questions that might come up about your resume. And again, at the interview, for the internship, it is completely okay to ask them like, hey, what specific duties am I going to be performing? Because they do vary greatly. I will give a little tip. I always tell people on USA Jobs, there is a section when you make an account that whenever you go to upload a resume, it will ask, do you want to use USA Jobs Resume Builder? I always tell people, yes, please do use USA Jobs Resume Builder. And the only reason why I say that, I mean, you can create your own federal resume just fine. But I like to tell applicants, if you've never made a federal resume before, USA Jobs Resume Builder is a great tool because it will do all of the formatting for you, and it will ask you the appropriate questions that you need for that information on your resume to qualify for a federal job. So that's just like a little plug for the resume builder. Lily, if you want to go to the next slide. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information, and I am sure that you all have questions. If you have questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat. Type a little Q with a colon and then your question. We have some HR specialists who are in the chat. I'm sure they've already been answering a lot of your questions already, but they are in the chat and they are available to answer those questions. So go ahead and start typing them in there. We will leave the next like 20 minutes for questions. And I also want to do just a quick little plug / reminder, since this is a hiring webinar for internships. I have received a lot of questions, and some of my colleagues, probably from some of you, asking about when EPA does post our internships for like the spring or the summer. Definitely keep an eye out this month as well as in December. We start to post a lot of our internships towards like the middle / end of November. So definitely keep an eye out for USA Jobs, set up those searches like Courtney was saying, that way that you are notified of those positions. Because a lot of times they do either end early or have those applicant limits. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out towards the end of middle end of this month for a lot of internships as well as into December. And yeah, just leave us all of your questions. We are happy to answer them as they come in. And I'll check back in just a few minutes and see how it's going. So.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Matt Swing. I'm going to moderate the question and answer chat for a little while. Hopefully you guys can hear me. There's been a whole bunch of questions. That's great. That's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of reel off answers to kind of 5 or 6 of the most asked ones. And hopefully we'll get those out of the way, and then we can get along with some other ones. Internships. Seems to be a really hot topic. Internships. Almost all internships, especially for upcoming summer 2025, these positions will tend to be posted beginning in mid-January through about mid-March. I highly recommend that you check every day on USA Jobs. Because the internship positions, they will open and close very fast. So while it may say that it is open for 5 days, that may not be the case, because there will be an application limit, and that application limit may not or may be reached after only day number 2. So you need to check USA Jobs every day, or you need to set up an alert. So anytime an internship posts that meets your search criteria, you get an automated email alert. Okay. Other questions that I've seen, internship positions are posted all over the country. Just because you don't see one right now does not mean there will not be one. Okay. Positions, I would say the vast majority of our internship positions will be posted either at a regional headquarters or one of the 3 main offices of the the EPA. So just a quick rundown of where most, not all, but most positions will be posted will be Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Durham, North Carolina, Atlanta, Cincinnati, Chicago, Kansas City, Dallas, Denver, San Francisco, Seattle. That will not be all of them. There will be internships in other places, but those will be the vast majority of internships. Internship positions typically will be for the GS4, GS5, and GS7 levels. Typically for science-related internship positions, you will need to have at least 2 years of post-high school formal education. This means basically 2 years of college. For all non-science related positions, typically, not always, typically you will need at least 1 year of post-high school formal education. EPA typically does not provide relocation expenses or a housing stipend for any internships. We will pay you based on the grade that you are selected for and the grade you apply for. So you do get paid. I will say that for an internship, it's a pretty darn good rate, but we do not provide any housing, any specific housing or stipend or anything like that. As far as what types and what types of internships will be posted, we have positions that will run the gamut. Everything from your hardcore science, where you're doing stuff in a lab, to doing HR related things and public relations related things. So there will be tons of those opening. Lots of folks are asking if internships will be posted in specific areas around the country. I'm sure that there will be something halfway close to you, but you can set up an alert on USA Jobs to find out if anything posts exactly in the city that you are looking for. Another one, there's been lots of questions about, does EPA offer hybrid or remote internships? In general, EPA does not offer very many remote positions at all, whether this is an internship or a full-time position. There are very few remote positions that EPA offers. So if you apply to a position that is in Washington, D.C., you would be expected to be in Washington, D.C. Conversely, if you apply to a position that's in Denver, you would be expected to be in Denver. Let's see here. I'm going to try and see if I can find some other questions in here. Here's a great one. How does EPA encourage collaboration between departments? Do internships offer opportunities to work with other departments? EPA does encourage collaboration between everybody. That's one of the things that I love about working at the EPA, is that it's such a collaborative work environment. Everybody is here to protect the environment. And most of the time, doing that job requires that you collaborate with people outside of your office. Most internships, you're going to have an opportunity to collaborate with many, many, many people. It's not going to be just the people in your office. Do you provide internships for students in tech-focused majors? We provide internships for students in pretty much all majors. I like to tell people that it does not matter to me or to anyone else here at EPA what your personal background is, what your educational background is, what your educational aspirations are, what your career aspirations are. I can promise you that there is a position at EPA that you will find, 1, interesting, and 2, that you're going to qualify for. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and then maybe we can hand out some questions to some of the other folks on the line. If you are currently completing the last semester of your first 2 years of college, is it okay to apply for a position that requires 2 years of college that will begin after you will have completed that semester? Courtney, are you still on the line? Would you care to take that one?
I am still on the line. Could you repeat that question one more time?
I sure can. If you are currently completing the last semester of your first 2 years of college, is it okay to apply for a position that requires 2 years of college that will begin after you have completed that semester. Does that make sense at all?
I think so. If it asks if you, or if it says that you have to have 2 years and you are currently completing it, was that the question?
Yes.
Sorry. It's okay. Yes, this is a good question. So the announcement will be very specific on if and when, you know, you're eligible based on how much education you have. So for student internships, you usually need to be currently enrolled. And then for recent graduates, it will specify in that clarification from the agency section exactly what you need. But if you have to, for a recent graduate position, if you have to have completed the degree within 2 years of, 2 years prior to applying, then we will be looking for that degree to be complete, and we'll be looking for the conferral date on the transcripts. Some announcements will allow you to be currently completing your degree, and it will tell you that in the clarification from the agency section. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. Awesome.
Feel free to add.
Some other folks asked, will both resumes be reviewed if you make a resume using the USA Jobs Resume Builder and provide my own? As an HR specialist, typically I'm going to look at everything that is a part of your application package. So will the hiring official. So, the more things that you upload, the more things I'm going to look at. Are cover letters required for internship applications? Typically, cover letters are not required. If they are, they will be mentioned in the announcement. As someone who abhors cover letters and thinks that they should not exist, I personally would say never write one, but feel free to write one if you would prefer. But typically here at EPA, a cover letter is not going to be required. Do we hire master's and PhD students? We sure do all the time. Typically, those higher level students will be targeted through a indefinite internship, so one that is designed to last throughout your schooling until you graduate. So we definitely hire a lot of those folks. Is work experience required for the internships? Let's see, is there anybody on the call that wants to take that one? Any EPA folks want to take that one? Is work experience required for internships? Okay, I'm not getting any volunteers. So work experience is not required for internships. I would say that it would definitely help you to have some work experience, especially if it is related work experience to the position that you're applying to. Oh, somebody already answered it anyway. Sorry about that. If you are a first-year grad student, do you only upload your transcripts from your undergrad? I would say upload all the transcripts you got, all the time, to every position. If you are applying to a recent graduate position, make sure that your transcripts that you upload have the date that you graduated on those transcripts.
Oh, Matt, I also wanted to add to that as well. This is Ashley. You can definitely upload unofficial transcripts as well. They do not have to be official. Sometimes we get questions about that. And yeah, they don't have to be official transcripts. I have heard that Matt's sound is potentially coming in choppy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're okay, Matt. Like I said, we've had some. It's
been a day.
Some technical difficulties today. Yes, it has been a day. Best laid plans, as they say. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and put your last couple of questions in the chat. We will try to get to the last of them typing out. I did want to let everyone in the call know I have just been informed that we will be posting internships very soon. So take that however you want, but we will be posting internships very, very soon. So definitely keep an eye out on our USA Jobs page. Go ahead, open up your browser if you're on the computer. Go ahead, open up, go to USA Jobs. If someone in the chat can put the USA Jobs link, that would be awesome. Go ahead, go to that link and go ahead and make an account. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have an account, because once you make that account, you can set up those notifications, and then that way you are notified whenever we do post those internships that you're interested in that meet your criteria. And that way you are able to get your application in before that 100 applicant limit. So go ahead, do that right now. And yeah, I will allow for about 30 more seconds for people to finish their questions, answering them. I do want to thank everyone for coming today. I know that we have had so many technical issues. Like I said, best laid plans, right? So thank you so much for bearing with us, and for really listening and asking really great questions. We really appreciate you all coming here. I do want to point out on the slide, we have our different resources and ways to connect with us. So you can go to our careers website, which is epa.gov/careers. If someone in the chat wants to drop that link, that'd be great. Like I said, we have our USA Jobs site, which you can see on the screen, epa.usajobs.gov, as well as our Twitter, where you can follow us, or X, I guess it's called now. I still say Twitter personally, but you can follow us there at EPA Jobs. If you have any questions that you still want answered that we didn't have time to answer today, feel free to send them to our careers inbox. That email is going to be careers@epa.gov. If someone will drop that in the chat, that'd be great. You can email us at this inbox, and we're getting a lot of emails to that inbox at the moment, so give us a day or two, but we will do our best to answer all of your questions. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We hope that this was informative, and hopefully we will see your application soon.